Back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. Now, this hobby goes through a lot of different cycles and a lot of different time periods in this hobby, and I think right now, today, we're moving into a new timeline in this hobby. Some of the timelines I could think of in recent memory is, like, there was, like, the playing aspect, then you had the collecting period of this hobby, and then it moved into a little bit of the grading, and then the pandemic hit, and the craziness, which was 2020, and then that was the selling period. And then after the selling period hit, then a lot of it came into the flipping period. And the flipping period was when a lot of new people entered this hobby who maybe didn't have massive collections. Maybe they only rediscovered Pokemon because of that 2020 timeline. And then it became a lot of the flipping because they didn't have old inventory. So then they were flipping until eventually now today. We are moving into a timeline that was never really a timeline in this hobby, is the acquisition period. And you can make the arguments for any of those periods that there was other things happening, of course. Nothing is just exclusive to only that one thing. It's always a combination, but when you want to just give it a name, that's how you could like phrase these different timelines. But today, the acquisition has never happened really in the past of this hobby because Pokemon was never really looked at as something that was in any sort of way guaranteed. It was always a speculation, a what if, or everyone always said, like, could there be a Black Swan event that could happen? And people that I've brought on my channel and asked them that question have always struggled to say, could there be another Black Swan event? And then I asked them, so let's rewind a little bit to 2018, and you just came out of the ending of the Pokemon Go hype, which hit in 2016. Would you say that another Black Swan event could have happened in 2018? And usually their answer is no to that. But that's where acquisition comes in. Acquisition is all about acquiring like collections and cards in multiples, meaning if you do believe in this hobby, if you do believe in the track record of this hobby, you do believe in the future of this hobby, now is your time where you should be wanting to acquire a lot of stuff. Now, just because I said now is the time to acquire a lot of stuff, what does that mean? Honestly, the acquisition phase for anybody out there watching this can be different for different people. For some people, it can just be one or two cards of certain cards. Or for other people out there, maybe this is your opportunity because prices are very low for a lot of stuff. Now you should be looking at cards and saying, maybe now's the time where I need to acquire 30 of a card. I will take those 30 cards. I will look at the best 5 out of the 30, and I'll send those best 5 away for grading. And then this is what people need to start doing is, figure out a budget that works for you. Nobody's budget in this hobby is going to be the same. Everybody's budget's going to be different. But now you have to start to look at how much money can you spend on this hobby a month and not be financially ruined or anything. Because like I said, this is not really the selling phase. This is the acquisition phase. So now this is when you're going to be acquiring cards. Maybe you could afford to send 10 cards away for grading a month. That's $150 in grading fees to PSA. Or for some people out there, you could afford to send 20 cards, so that's $300. Everybody's number is going to be different, but you start to figure out like how many cards can you send, because if you're just acquiring cards, this is where you have to be really smart with your money and really figure out a budget that works for you. Now, like I said, just because it's the acquisition phase doesn't mean that there's zero selling that goes on. It doesn't mean that you're not able to recoup any of the money you're putting into the hobby. No, it's not as drastic as that, but probably what's going to happen in the very near term, and I'm going to be honest with you, I think I'm foreseeing a lot of price declines across the board. Now, again, everything is not linear. That doesn't mean that every single card, every single product that is printed or released by Pokemon is going to like lose value. No, it doesn't mean that. It never means that. But the sad reality is probably a large majority of stuff is going to lose value, or what is even worse than losing value is just that stagnation. Sometimes this product could stay stagnant for a decent period of time. So I think that is the timeline we are moving into, which don't take this as a negative, take it as a positive in the sense that the reason why a lot of these cards are going to come down, especially when you look at the graded card market, especially when you look at a lot of these vintage cards. And to be honest with you, it's going to sound crazy to say, but at this time, at this period, vintage might as well be anything before Sword and Shield. That's how crazy this hobby has come. And what I mean by that is you can look at stuff from Sun and Moon, all these tag team alt arts which got pumped to the moon. A lot of those cards are seeing huge retraces all the way to X and Y, to Black and White, to Diamond Pearl, and just go all the way back to Wizard of the Coast. But the reason why all these cards are having downturns is because these cards were pumped up. We saw cards that a year prior were selling, let's just throw out an arbitrary number, cards that were selling for $100. And fast forward through the pandemic, 2 years later, those same cards were selling for $1,500 or $1,000. Or cards that were even cheaper and in the raw forms were selling for crazy premiums. A perfect example would be like unlimited Charizards. Any ungraded, unlimited Charizard that was even like relatively near mint condition. So I'm talking 7 or 8 contender. You can look at the condition. It was very clear whitening issues, very clear corner issues, but nothing to bring that card to like a damage condition or even to a light play, but very clearly not a PSA 10. Those cards saw crazy price explosions. And like I said, that unlimited base set Charizard is the one that sticks out above all others because we saw what raw prices for that card were. And then I'm sure there was a lot of people sent those cards away, got hit with their 7s, got hit with their 8s, and learned real quickly what a truly gem mint card is versus a non-mint card, or a near mint card, excuse me. A real quick shout out to Son of a Mewtwo. He said, just paying my dues. Shout out to Drew, #1 mod in the game, and our crew, Captain PK. I salute you, Son of a Mewtwo. I appreciate the super chat. And if you guys are watching this after the fact, I do like to do all these live. I'm not very good at recording videos. I should start doing it, but I can't. But it goes back to the topic of this video now is we're in that acquisition phase. And the reason we are also in the acquisition phase because in a way, and I hate to say this, but there's going to be a lot of people in the very near term in this hobby are going to, I wouldn't say fail, because fail sounds like too harsh of a word, but there's going to be a lot of people in the very near term who are really going to struggle in this hobby because they've only been used to one thing happening. Everything they buy instantly goes up in value. Everything that they buy doesn't really crash in value till eventually. I think a lot of those people are a little over leveraged, especially when it comes to, spending crazy high premiums. And because they're seeing the market retrace a little bit and they're seeing a little bit of maybe of a contraction in the hobby, and a contraction could just be as simple as, well, a few things. But one, the sad thing, and I hope this isn't really the reality, is a lot of people leaving, because I have seen a lot of new people coming into this hobby, which is always a positive. In order to grow a hobby, that is probably the thing you need to happen above all others. You just need new blood and new people and, new just enthusiasm to enter this hobby. But probably more likely that's the second thing that's going to happen is just going to have people that are becoming a little bit smarter with their money. So they're not willing to spend like crazy premiums and maybe becoming a little bit smarter buyers. And smart buyers are also just as important as like the new collector, because you need the smart buyer, because you need markets to learn how to regulate themselves. And a lot of people out there aren't going to want to hear that. They're going to say, like, I don't want this Pokemon market to regulate itself. I want everybody to just come in, spend money like it's going out of style, and not really understand the purchases that they are making. But you don't want that, because that's not good for the longevity of the hobby. You want people, and you want that, a little bit of this market to shrink a little bit, and things to become a little bit harder. And for too long in this hobby, everything was just on easy mode. And if any guys are gamers out there, nobody plays it on very easy mode, because very easy mode, to be honest with you, at a certain point during the game, it's not fun. You want to play on hard, because at least when you're playing on hard, maybe you're going to die in the game once in a while. You're not going to just be able to walk through and might as well put your character on invincibility mode. And the sad part is in this hobby is for a little while, everybody was sort of on invincibility mode. And invincibility mode meant it doesn't matter what you did. You couldn't be harmed. You couldn't make a mistake. And maybe eventually this hobby will get a little bit to the harder mode. So when you start to make the mistakes, maybe your character does get actually hurt. You do see some actual repercussions because the game is no longer on that easy mode. It is on that hard mode. And I think this is important. But, the people that will fail in this hobby or will struggle, to be honest with you, when they see prices retracing, they're going to start to fire sale stuff. And probably, like I said earlier, they're over leveraged. And when these over leveraged people start to fire sale and there's not a buyer on the other end, so in order to make money in this hobby, you need one thing to happen above all others. You need somebody to pay more for a card than you paid for it. It's that simple. I know. What is it called? It's called the greater fool theory. The greater fool theory says there will always be somebody out there willing to spend more than you. And that's what the greater fool theory is. It means no matter what happens, there'll always be a buyer. And that buyer will always spend more than you. So even if you buy a card at an all-time sale, when you sell it, you will sell it at a price that is greater than that all-time sale. That is that greater fool theory. But we might be running into this timeline now where there isn't somebody out there who's willing to spend more. So then people will start to sell stuff at losses. And I know a lot of people out there are starting to ask themselves one question. Is it possible? Will we see people actually take losses? Because that's counterintuitive. You would think if people have the money to acquire this stuff and purchase stuff in the first place, why would they want to sell it at a loss? And to be honest with you, that is just human nature. That is what we will see happen, relatively soon, I believe. And to be honest with you, I'm looking at a lot of auctions, whether it's the Z&G, whether it's the Probe Steam, whether it's DC Sports, whether it's all these big auction platforms, people that are moving, mid to high end cards, and I'm watching what they're doing. Or even you can go on Golden and you can see like what even the highest end of trophy cards. There was a lot of like snap cards all hit the market at one time. Now, you can make the argument of whoever sold those snap cards. Why would you sell all these snap cards on the same auction? Because the buyer pool for snap cards you're talking greater than $50,000. When you talk about cards greater than $50,000, the amount of cards in this entire hobby, that pool shrinks down to this. Cards that are greater than 50,000. And then the buyer pool shrinks down to even smaller. The people that have that sort of capital that are actual like buyers at $50,000. Now, when you flood a lot of those cards on the market, you're going to have people looking at a few different snap cards going, I got the money, maybe I could buy one of these. And maybe if they were spread out a little bit, I could free up funds and everything, and I could buy these on later auctions and stuff like this. Because for a lot of people in this hobby, you got to keep in mind one thing. Not everybody is always liquid, especially with $50,000 liquid, $100,000 liquid. So in order to be liquid, you have to free up some cash. And to free up cash, to sell cards, to do private sales, to move higher end stuff and move it quick enough where you could free up $50,000 or $100,000, it might take a month or two. So when you have auctions that are, multiple cards that people would want to buy all in one auction block, that could get very tough. But that's the thing. If, you have events like that happening on the high end, you'll start to see those events happening on the low end. And when you start to see it happen on the low end, you might start to see, when you only see a few of a card ever come up for auction, maybe one a month, maybe one every other month. And then eventually we start to see people liquidating collections and stuff. And then you got 2 certain cards a month, or 3 or 4, or especially like some of this more recent modern stuff, which people are finding out is not rare when you start to look at pop reports. And the thing about crazy high pop reports is, let's say you own 10 Moonbryons. 10 Moonbryons is a lot of Moonbryons. That's a lot. Anybody watching this video, anybody at home is probably going to say, you know what? 10 Moonbryons, that's a lot of a single card, especially owning 10 of those in a PSA 10. Now, one person that owns 10 Moonbryons, can you really affect the market? No. And in fact, you're going to still be at the whims of that market because that card has PSA 10 populations in the thousands. So you are not able to control that market at all. You will always be at the whims of that market. And when you have a card with huge populations like that, if you come into a period where, a lot of people are selling, you can start to see even a card like that, which is the poster boy of modern Pokemon. Talk about PSA 10 Moonbryon. That is the bee's knee. That is the card of the cards, Just like in the Mafia, you have the bosses of bosses. Well, guess what? The Moonbryon is the card of card when it comes to modern. It is the top tier, but a card like that starts to get beaten down because there's a lot of sales, a lot of a lot of those cards go into auction, if the buyer pool starts to, it will never evaporate, but if that buyer pool starts to dry up a little bit, meaning maybe there isn't as much buying pressure because there's so many of them hitting the market week after week, and then cards like that start getting pulled down, somebody that owns 10 is going to have no effect on that market. Where now, if you look at some maybe mid-air cards that have relatively low populations, let's say PSA 10 populations in the populations of double digits. So that's between 10 and 99. If somebody owns 10 of that card in a PSA 10, they can maybe control the market a little bit, because then they say, well, I got 10. Now I only really have to worry about like a couple more coming on the market. You could potentially acquire those cards if you see good buying opportunities for those, or hope that a lot of those cards are locked up in people's PCs, because in order to really get cards to really go up in value, especially when it comes to the graded ones and the ones that are those higher tier grades, you need that to happen. You need the collectors to eat up those cards and stick them away and put them in their collection, and to keep those cards from ever resurfacing back onto the market for at least a while. Because then when that happens, then even a card that might have a relatively, large population, large being subjective when you're looking at modern cards, when I talk about a vintage card that might have 100 or so graded, that is a low population, and all you really need is, you don't need that many collectors to want that card. You only need 100 collectors. And when you look at this entire hobby and you look at every single collector out there, everybody watching this video, everybody's going to watch this video after the fact, or everybody just in this hobby as a whole, whether it's the United States, Canada, Australia, UK, it doesn't matter. You just need 100 people in this entire hobby to want that card also, and to lock that up in their collection. It feels a little bit better. But then some of the modern stuff, it's like, all right, now I need 10,000 people to like this card. And the thing is right now, modern is hot. There's a lot of people want a lot of these modern cards. One of the things we've also seen happen in record time is modern nines, though. How quickly modern nines have crashed in price. I mean, there's always been a time in this hobby, I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh, it's never happened, where if you hit PSA 9s, you might be lucky to break even, or you're more likely to lose money. But recently, that wasn't really the reality. Recently, and when I say recently, I'm not talking like in the last month, I'm talking, in 2022 and 2021, if you hit a 9, you still made money, but that timeline is drying up pretty quickly too. So it's all, it's all just, it's wild right now what's going on. But I think we are in this acquisition period, and it goes back to the title of this video. And what I'm trying to say on today's video is, I think if you believe in Pokemon, you believe in this hobby, if you believe that people are going to want these cards going into the future, now is your time to start acquiring stuff. But now you have to really look really hard at, what are you acquiring? If you look at the thumbnail of this video, I put a card. It's so Team Rocket Returns. Team Rocket Returns has legendary birds, has a beautiful Zapdos artwork, it has an awesome Team Rockets Moltres, but it also has a Team Rockets Articuno, and that is the thumbnail of today's video. And it's like, well, why would you put a card like Team Rocket Returns Articuno? Because a card like that is what I would call like a higher end mid-tier card. What I mean by that is a very sought after fan favorite Pokemon from an absolutely awesome set that a lot of people would like, a lot of people will go after. But when they think of that set, maybe that isn't this card that is the number one card that comes to people's minds. When you say, tell me a awesome card from EX Team Rocket Returns, they might not say that. Maybe the first thing they're going to say is the Gold Stars, or different cards. And then, but maybe that's still a high-end card. So when somebody mentions it, they're like, oh yeah, still know that card. Or even like, I don't know, like EX Sandstorm, the Aerodactyl. That is another great example of a card. Like the EX Sandstorm Aerodactyl, like, mid-tier card. Probably not the card everybody's going to immediately think of when they think of EX Sandstorm. But when they think of that card, they're like, yeah, that's a good card too. A lot of these like mid-air, like, still chasey cards, meaning if somebody were to open up a pack of EX Team Rocket Returns and you pull an EX and you pull that Team Rocket's Articuno, it is not a failure of an opening, meaning you open that pack, you're not like, waste of money. there's a lot of hollows in EX Team Rocket Returns that maybe if you pull, you're going to go, oh, that was a waste of money. But, look at the pack price versus the price of that card raw. Then you start to look at what some of these cards are selling for in nines. These are just small examples, but I think these are now we're moving into the acquisition time of cards like that. Cards that have a lot of rarity and scarcity going for them. But in reality, like, maybe the market is just dipping on a lot of these cards. And I just gave you two examples. There are examples of cards like that, all the way from base set, all the way up to more or less modern. There are examples of that like mid-tier chase that are just really getting beaten down on a lot of these different timelines right now. We are in the acquisition phase, because I'm going to be honest with you, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If you believe in Pokemon and you believe in the future trajectory of this hobby, not just in the short term, not just in the near term, but in the long term, there will be very few sets that people will always flock back to. And one of those sets that I could guarantee you with all certainty people will flock back to will be base set. That absolute original 99 base set, especially first edition. And to have the ability to pick up PSA 10 hollows for $249, yes, it's a mid-tier card. It's not a chase card. It's when I ask you from base set, name a top card, Poliwrath isn't going to be on the tip of your tongue, and it probably will never be on the tip of your tongue. And you might say every card before Poliwrath, but it doesn't change the fact of how hard that card is to pull, how impossible that card is to source raw. To be honest with you, you probably would pay the same raw price to source that card in a near mint plus condition versus just buying that same card in a PSA 10. But we are in the acquisition phase right now. I have spent a lot of money recently. I don't recommend anybody spending money. Like, do what you want, but look for the really, really good buying opportunities that are happening right now today. Like, there are so many, and it's not just PSA 10 from we came out of the Logan Paul hype of 2020, 2021. When that crazy hype period was going on, you couldn't buy a PSA 10 first edition base set card for $250. But we live in the moment now today where 8 days ago you could have made that purchase. We're going to come in a timeline where those purchases are going to become easier and easier. And if you are in the acquisition phase, meaning when you see good buys come up, you're scooping them up, now is going to be opportunity. But now this is where you have to, everything you've ever learned of this hobby, everything you've ever studied in this hobby, all the fundamentals, these are words I've used on this channel in the past, and I'm really, really trying to express this to you. There are cards and sets and products in this hobby that have really, really good, solid fundamentals. And there are cards and there are sets and there are products in this hobby right now that have really, really poor fundamentals. And one of the real, real strong fundamentals I love above all others is two words: rarity and scarcity. When it comes to the acquisition timeline, if you can find cards that have those two things going for it, rarity and scarcity, and you could pick those cards up at damn near rock bottom prices, I promise you, you are going to do really, really well when this hobby picks up. But that's the thing. And the saddest thing of all this is when everything is rocket shipping to the moon and everything is crazy high in price and, it doesn't seem like you can lose on anything, that is when people are going to be spending the most money. And when the acquisition phase comes, when things start to hit this downturn, when things start to become stagnant for a little period of time, this will be when the least amount of people are buying. So one of the hardest things to do in the hype period is deal with that competition. Now that the competition is slowly moving out and leaving, now is your opportunity to do that thing of acquisition. But now, acquisition is not the same as selling either. And this is where it's going to be hard too. And it's funny. I had a comment on one of my more recent videos where I was talking about liquidity. And if you've been watching my channel recently, you've heard me talk about liquidity pretty often. And I say how important liquidity is because I started making liquidity videos a few months back because I thought that the acquisition phase would eventually come. And in order for when that acquisition phase happens, you need to have the money available to start purchasing. The thing about acquisition is you might now buy stuff with the sole intention of holding on to it. And if you're holding on to it, a lot of money, especially if a lot of money starts going out there, that money's going to get tied up for a while. So that's why being liquid was so important. But I had people on that video who were saying, if you are not liquid, you probably shouldn't be buying Pokemon cards. So maybe I am failing you as the listener, but I mean this. When I talk about liquidity in Pokemon, that whatever money you are using in Pokemon should be separate from all other money you spend in your normal life. The liquidity I talk about is just in this buying and selling game and collecting and whatever you call yourself in this hobby. That is the money I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the money that you're doing with any of your actual investments or your mortgage or food on the table or your kids' college fund. All that is separate. All that, in my opinion, should always be taken care of first before we hop into the acquisition and liquidity phase of Pokemon. But because I got that comment on one of my more recent videos, I do feel like I might have failed you as a listener if that was something that you even thought was a possibility. That when I talk about liquidity, it's like, if you don't feel you're liquid, you shouldn't be buying Pokemon. It's like, no, it's a separate pool of money. The Pokemon money is separate than all others. And if anybody took my words and they believe that when I talk about staying liquid in Pokemon was the same as staying liquid with your emergency fund and all that stuff, I've failed you if that was the impression you got. And I want to make that very clear. That is not what I'm saying. Pokemon is very different, but you have to get there. And by that is potentially separate bank account for Pokemon, separate credit card. The more you could separate, your hobby versus the rest of your life, that is important. It's very I know a lot of people mix. If there was a long period of time where I mixed, my normal credit card, which I would buy groceries on, would also be the same credit card that I use for eBay. And it's important to separate those, or your same checking account that you have your direct deposit from work and your mortgage come out of and all this stuff. People would also be using that for Pokemon. I recommend, if you have the ability, and especially now, when the market is slowing down a little bit, start to build these walls, build that separation. And it is important. And if I've led you guys astray on that, I apologize for that. That was never my intention, but the fact that somebody took that and put that comment really made me think. But it goes back now to the acquisition phase of this hobby. When the good opportunities come, if you're buying at low prices, well, you might get lucky and be able to immediately flip those and put it as a buy it now and, sell it for a much higher price than you paid for it. A lot of this stuff, if the hobby as a whole starts to undervalue a lot of stuff that just very recently was overvaluing, this is the trouble too. It's that very, very semantic argument of what is something that is overvalued versus what is something that is undervalued, and how can you recognize those two things? And it's not a perfect science. You literally, when you start to talk about things being overvalued versus undervalued, you're talking at the most semantic level of individual items. You have to look at every single item. And I can't hold your hand, and a lot of people in this chat can't hold other people's hands. Everybody has to start to make their own decisions on what is overvalued versus what is undervalued. And the only person that is going to truly know that is going to be you. And the only way you can know that is to understand the things I mentioned earlier. And I know now I'm going to do this big circle where I start to repeat words. And I hate to do that, but I got it. When you start to look at the fundamentals of a lot of this stuff. But I'm going to tell you right now, the people that acquire the most right now in this period of this hobby will do the best coming out of this. And, one of the things a lot of people lost out on recently was, they lost out on set collection identity, whatever identity they had as a hobby enthusiast, they lost a lot of that. And the reason they lost a lot of that identity was because they had to sell a lot of things that were important to them. But, if you could recognize stuff even still today in this hobby that are overvalued, it doesn't mean to not sell anything. Sell the stuff you think is overvalued. Still stay liquid. Like, still play that daily game, that rat race, which is Pokemon. And you will do well, but I promise you, there's a lot of stuff coming up in the very recent. I've been watching stuff. If you have the money now, there's a lot of good buying opportunities. And I would be scooping up if I were you. I mean, I am scooping up. So I'm, in a way, creating my own competition maybe by telling you that. But I also know that the truth of the matter is a lot of people won't do that because they only want to chase that, the thing that's going up. They don't want to try to catch the falling knife. And to catch the falling knife, there's a reason they use that wordage. Just think of the visual representation of catching a falling knife. What does that mean? It means if you catch that falling knife, unless you are able to perfectly catch it with just pinching it with your fingers perfectly on the side, most people think of catching a falling knife is grabbing it. And guess what? That knife is going to cut you on the way down, and that's probably the reality for a lot of this stuff is when you talk about acquisition, you might be doing a lot of this acquisition right now, and the bottom hasn't hit on some of these cards. And if the bottom hasn't hit, that means you might be buying stuff, and then you might lose money in the short term. And this is where you're going to have to figure out what works best for you. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to be doing a lot of buying. And that's just what I want to do. I want to pick up really cool cards. And, a lot of people say, and I've heard a lot of people say this, if I was there when the hobby dropped, I would have such a cool collection. And then everybody just kind of sighs and goes, yeah, but would you? Would you be buying? So everybody that said that, now's your opportunity for a lot of this stuff. Like, there's a lot of opportunities very, very recently. And now, it could also be that this is just a very transitory period in this hobby because a lot of people talk about December as being poor selling months. Maybe a lot of people don't have money because they bought a shitload of Christmas gifts. Maybe they maxed out their credit cards or whatever they did, and they just right now coming after Christmas time, people just don't have that available funds because now they're trying to pay off expenses from, the whole month of December leading up to Christmas. Maybe that is too. So maybe this period of acquisition that I talk about at the end of December 2023, maybe it's just a very short window of time, and maybe this time does pass. And when we move out of end of December, January, maybe by February, the market's back to normal and things start going up. I don't know. I cannot sit here and look at my crystal ball and say, how long will all this stuff last? Because I don't know. I have a magic 8-ball. There's a magic 8-ball in that thing. We could ask the magic 8-ball. Here, we could ask the magic 8-ball because I don't have a crystal ball, but I do have a magic 8-ball. So, what do you want to ask the magic 8-ball? We could ask it. By February, will the market be hot again? Let's see. Ooh, very doubtful. Not good. Let's ask it a different question. Magic 8-ball. Will a PSA 10 first edition base set Polyraft be worth more than $250 by the end of this week? You may rely on it. There you go. Maybe the magic. Maybe we should have a new segment of this channel. PK asks the magic 8-ball how to invest in Pokemon. And this is an old magic 8-ball, by the way. This thing, if you look, the water, I don't think it's water, it's blue. It's all old. I mean, this is my magic 8-ball from when I grew up. So it is old. All right. Anyways, that was my little rant for today. I just want to go burn through the chat real quick. I see Lumil was first to put the comment. Number 1 mod in the game, Drew. Drew, good to see you, buddy. Appreciate you. Hope you guys all had a happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I hope you guys all have a Happy New Year coming up pretty soon, too. But, yeah, it was Christmas time. That's why I wasn't making videos. But now that Christmas is over, I got nothing but time, except for New Year's. I got to do New Year's thing. Aaron, good to see you. Mr. Kite, good to see you. Aaron, Jester, Chris Texas, good to see you. Let's see, anybody got any questions? So, Sebos, Sebbos, said, first time ever catching the live, not EU-friendly times. I'm sorry for that. I will try to do that. I have done a couple EU friendly time lives in the past. So I did a 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time live with Rusty TCA Game when he was on my channel. That was 2 years ago at this point. And then when Nat Turner, President CEO from PSA Grading, came on, I think that was a 3:30 live Eastern Standard Time. So maybe some of those lives you're able to hop on, but I know, I'm sorry. If you are in the EU, I think right now it's like 3, 4 a.m. at the time of this live. So I do apologize for that. Um, so, um, so Neb524 said, thoughts on Rudy's new video, past 2 days, and mainly the new one related to Pokemon today. So, to be honest with you, I took care of my kids. Well, I worked today and then took care of my kids. I haven't had time to really watch any videos, especially Rudy's, so I'm not sure when it came out. But I did watch his. I want to say I watched the part 1, but I haven't watched the part 2, so I can't really talk about it. But I do enjoy all of Rudy's videos, and when this video's over, I'll probably give that a watch. Cheval says PK's wrong. My Hidden Fate seal position will take me to the moon, or else he's selling to the old card shop. Yeah, Josh will be there to buy. So speaking of Josh, the old card shop, another product that I was trying to buy today, which I was the third highest bidder on, was the Pokemon card game intro pack deck VHS. So if you guys are not familiar with that, it's like these. There's an old Japanese product. It came with two like starter decks in it. There was a Venusaur deck and a Blastoise deck, and then with it came with a VHS. So, but like the cards in it are very cool cards. Like the Squirtle sticks out. There's a real cool Arcanine in it. Like some really awesome fan favorite Pokemon, and it's called Pokemon Card Game Intro Pack Deck VHS. And you can look, it's like Japanese. One sold today for $456, and I was watching it. I tried the bid on it, and it just squeaked by my max bid. So I think my max bid was like $440. I ended up selling for $456. So maybe I need to start also increasing my max bids. But it was already open, but the decks themselves were not open. So the decks are sealed. They have like a plastic wrap on it, but the box itself was already open. And I went on YouTube real quick, and I was like, I just got to remember, what are all the cards in it? I probably could have, to be honest with you, I probably could have just looked at the set list, but I just went to YouTube for some reason. And the very top search result for the last person that uploaded a video, opened one of those, was Josh, the old card shop. See, so I had a point when Cheval's mentioned Josh, the old card shop. But yeah, that's a cool product too. If you guys aren't familiar with that product, like, you should check it out. Like, there's some really cool cards in it. You know, all those cards in raw form, you know, they sell for around $20 a piece because they have the, you know, like intro Japanese deck stamp on it. Like, they're nichey things. You definitely have to be deeper down the rabbit hole to even know products exist like that have a, you know, VHS. It's all in Japanese. It's not an English product. So yeah, you got to be deeper down the rabbit hole even to have that shit on your watch list. But, you know, I was watching it, and I didn't get it today, but it ended today. But yeah, Josh, the old card shop. And when I looked on YouTube, he was the very last person to open that product. And I was like, you know what, Josh? Josh, you're always doing it, buddy. Me and you, we think alike, Josh. And if you guys aren't familiar with Josh, the old card shop's channel, I definitely recommend you guys checking him out. He's one of the real good ones. The Pokemon Dentist said, hey, PK, I feel prices are going to be dropping and the hobby is going to spiral back to 2015 and hold for a while. I'm only buying select items as I feel the change in the air. Yes. Yes. Buy select items. Like, it doesn't mean that just because this is the acquisition phase, it means you could buy anything. And, you know, it's buy the things that have the rarity and the scarcity, and it has the true fundamentals to it. And, you know, if there's stuff that you think are maybe not rare and scarce, but you still think have good fundamentals, you know, there's certain modern products that exist right now, you know, modern products that might have maybe not so much the rarity and scarcity to them, but have the good fundamentals, can still be strong buys. And what I mean by that are certain products that have like super fan favorite Pokemon with awesome artworks. You know, there are products, even modern, that have, you know, like that, just that, I don't know how, yeah. I guess that's the way to do it. It's just, it's just a demand to them. Like a perfect cards I could think of are It's the Mewtwo and Mew. They were like the tag team. Fuck, what were they called? Partner tins? Is that what they were? Partner tins? There was like the three of them, but there's the one where the Mewtwo's got his hand on, or his head on his hand, and then you can see like the Mew right on his shoulder, and it looks like the Mew's bothering the Mewtwo. I think that's what they're called. Tag team partnership tins. Oh, you're really testing me on modern Pokemon products. But that product right there might not have rarity and scarcity to it, but it has good fundamentals. That fundamentals it has to it is, two fan favorite Pokemon with beautiful artworks, and the packs inside that tin are still awesome packs. I mean, there's like tag team packs in there and stuff. So it has really good fundamentals of product working like that. And even a card like that in a PSA 10 probably sells for around $100 in a 10, maybe a little bit more. Say between 100 and 120 at auction, a card like that, that's got good fundamentals, and maybe it doesn't have that rarity and scarcity to it. So you can find products that are still good buys right now, but it's just all about like waiting around, finding that good price point, finding that good entry point. So Son of Mewtwo said, "Nah, man, live is a vibe. It's why I'm here. Things don't feel fake." Or Doctor, appreciate you, Son of Mewtwo, and I appreciate all the support. And Drew, I know you said, shout out to Drew. Yeah, Drew's number one, man. Beefy Tacos, love the name. He said, "What's your opinion on cross-gating with PSA or cracking and sending with certain main hitters dipping? It's making those big plays really intriguing." Honestly, a lot of people don't like to hear this, but buy the card, not the grade. And listen, PSA undergrades cards sometimes. PSA overgrades cards sometimes. CGC undergrades cards sometimes. CGC overgrades cards sometimes. Beckett undergrades cards a lot of times and overgrades cards a lot of times. Like, it works down to, looking at the cards, looking at the high-res photos, looking at the front and back of a slab and saying, okay, I think this card is undergraded. And if you do believe that the card is undergraded, or if it's a CGC 3-7 cert, meaning if those first three numbers start with 3-7, then it was probably, harshly graded, and you probably have a good chance of cracking that slab and submitting, especially like those CGC 9s. CGC 9.5 with a 3-7 cert, it's probably damn near guaranteed, or pretty much close to a guarantee of a PSA 10, especially if that 9.5 with a CGC 3-7 cert is like a Japanese new back card. Oh my god, CGC was so hard on Japanese new backs, giving them 9.5s with that 3-7 cert period. So 3-7 is anything pretty much submitted November, December 2020. So the cards would be submitted November, December, early January. So end of 2020, very early January 2021, you're going to find cards with that 3-7 cert number with the first two digit, and all those cards super harshly graded. One of the most harshly graded timelines in CGC's history. But it goes to every card. Like, just look at the card. But yeah, I've had a lot of great success cracking cards and submitting. I've had success cracking PSA slabs that I bought on PWCC auction, cracking those slabs because I thought the cards were undergraded by PSA, and resubmitting them to PSA and getting upgrades. And it happened very recently. I think I talked about it with my Victory Cup medal. So the 2011 Black and White Victory Cup Autumn Tours, I had a number 1, number 2, number 3, and the number 1 and number 2 were graded PSA 8s, and the number 3 was graded to PSA 7. My 1 and 2 upgraded to 9s, and my 3 upgraded to an 8. So, Victory Medal, Victory Road, Victory Battle. Fuck, I can't. This is the problem too when you do lies. There's so much Pokemon trying to go through this brain. It's hard to sometimes decipher some of this stuff. So, Sibo said, loving the cheaper times, like picking up many cards that were too expensive for him earlier. Yeah, if you like cards and you believe in this, now's your chance, man. Cheval says, I was one of PK's first viewers. I followed his advice, so I've been used to losing money. Yes, Cheval's. I will. So a lot of people out there say PK hates CGC. Cheval's he's been watching this channel long enough. He will tell you that I was a big CGC supporter. And CGC destroyed me. I'm pretty sure CGC destroyed Cheval's too. So Cheval's, I still to this day, man, apologize for that. But I've been spending my last dying breath trying to shit on CGC for all the damage they have done to us, man. So I hope I've at least made up for you to that. So Nunu said, how much would cross grade cost too? When it comes to cross grading, you got to be confident. Like, you think that this card is undergraded, and the worst case scenario is that your card is just going to get the same grade it already has. So never do true cross grading. Means you send it in the slab for review. Never do that. If you're going to send a card, just crack it. Crack the slab, submit it raw to the grading company. If you do believe in your like pre-grade, and I've never sent a card for like a true crossover play, meaning I sent it in the slab. Never done that once. Never plan to do that. So that would be my recommendation. So when you ask what is the cost for that, the cost is just going to be whatever tier you send that card at. But yeah, crack it. And if you've never cracked a slab before, pull a real cheap slab out and just practice. Crack it first, you know. I was looking for a slab to crack right now, but I'm like, that's probably stupid. Here, I got a card. I'll crack this right on screen right now. So, this is a card I think is probably undergraded, because I think it has like a little dent in it. But, you guys like, so this is Victini from Noble Victories. It's one of the full art chase cards. Noble Victories doesn't have like that many full art chase cards. Victini really is probably one of those full art chase cards because it's like on the box art itself. Like if you have I think I have a Noble Victories box, do I? Nope, I don't. But if you look at like a Noble Victories box art, it has a Victini on it. So all I do is, some people crack like one edge, one corner, and then they try to like peel it that way. I just get some snips and I do all four corners real quick. And right here I have a trash can. So put your hands in the trash can. Like, don't try the crack stuff like this, because plastic's going to fly that way. Plastic's going to fly that way. I just do it right in the trash. So I just do 4 quick snips. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then wherever I'm going to put my screwdriver in, I will give that a little bit more. So now here's the slab I just cracked. So you can see all 4 corners. And then all you got to do is you get yourself a flathead screwdriver. So this is like the one I like because it's a nice thinner one, but it's small. So all you want to do is just put it right through the top. So just like that. And then you're going to work it a little bit. And then all you're going to do is just rotate your handle so you like make it sideways. So, and then I just stick my finger in there. And then you just pull it apart. Just like that. So then there's your card. And then you just tap it out. There you go. So now, I don't think this card deserved a 6. And if you look at look how clean the corners are on this card. Like, there's a little bit of whitening, but it's not 6 contender. And I looked at the surface, I didn't see any indents. Honestly, I just believe that this card, there's a little bit of plastic, but looking at the surface, now that I have it out of the slab, I don't see any dents. I don't know what kept it. The texturing on these cards is weird, but like I thought maybe it had like a surface dent that I missed. I guess like a real small, I wouldn't even call it like a pinhole dent, but like a card like this would be maybe not a PSA submission play, because if that is a dent and I think it's going to hit another 6, this might be a card that you're going to want to now send to, say, CGC, because that's probably what kept this card from, attaining a higher grade at PSA. So then you just go to a grading card company that is maybe a little less harsh on surface issues, like a little dent like that, or something that you can't really see with your naked eye, and that you have to have it out of the slab and really look at it, and then send it to CGC, because now, they're going to grade that surface issue a little bit less. And then now maybe this card went from a 6.5 or a 6 at PSA, maybe it's a 8.5 or 9 at CGC. So then that's how you would do that cross grade and play there. So let's see. Son of Mewtwo said, this hobby is a game. That's what makes it so fun. Yeah. This hobby is fun, man. I agree with that. And then, but believe it or not, this Victini is actually like one of my favorite cards in this hobby too. Because I do like black and white, and I do like black and white full art cards, and that is like one of my favorites. And Noble Victories is a way a little slept on of a set. Let's see. Beefy Taco says, cracking just seems so risky when PSA has their cross-grading service. Oh, I didn't even get to that point. I just cracked a slab in front of you. Dude, cracking slabs is not a risky thing to do in this hobby at all. And even when you try to do it, like, in front of a camera, it's not. Like, trust me, there was no damage done to this card just because I cracked it. Like, and if you're going to take your time and stuff, like, I mean, it pulls apart so easy. Like, you know, some people, when they'll open these, like, they'll start pulling it in a weird way, so then, like, the slab itself will crack in half or, like, do all this stuff. It's like, no, you just, all these are sonically welded together. You could just peel them apart so easy. They pull apart very easy, so. And then you get to keep this little thing, and then you just stick, I got a bag of these babies. I'll show you. So, I don't know where my big bag is, but, like, look at how many of these. I got a huge collection. I don't know if. Just a bunch of slabs cracked. You gotta just. I don't even know how many slabs are here. Like, how many slabs is this? It doesn't look like a lot, but it is a lot. Like, you just cracking slabs. It's not a hard thing. Like, don't worry about damaging your cards. Like, maybe practice it, and then now this Noble Victories one just goes on top, and it's another one. But I don't even know how many. This is a big pile of paper right here. I don't even know. That's a big pile of paper. And even, yeah, I don't even know. Here's a good one. Here's a Chum Lee with his signature. See that one? But, yeah, I don't know. So, these, like this number right here, if you can see that, that is one of those numbers. 379. If you find 37 certs, those are the ones you want to crack all day. Just like I mentioned earlier on today's live, crack 37 certs. Trust me, all those cards are going to upgrade for you. Especially, like I said, you could find them in 9.5s. Like the one I just showed you was actually, that was a Mega Tokyo Pikachu. That hit a 9.5. I sold that Mega Tokyo Pikachu in a PSA 10. The same exact card I sold through the Z&G Emporium auction block. Shout out to James from Z&G. If you guys send any cards to him, let him know I sent you. But no, I sent that exact card in a PSA slab that I cross-graded. So don't be nervous about cracking and sending cards. Let's see. So Beefy said, the sentiment exactly why I sold a bunch of my Van Gogh Pikachus. I'm confident they will have a major dip in the new calendar year, and you can just rebuy back in. Yeah, and if you can't, well, at least you made a lot of money. So I got 5 of the Van Gogh Pikachus. I graded 3 of my 5 in PSA 10s. I was very lucky. I got 100% Gem Mint 10 rate, and now for my other 2, I still just have them. One of them is going to be part of my personal collection. You can see it, I don't know, right there, right by the nice CGC 8.5 slabs. Let's see. Son of a Mewtwo says, I need to invest more. I mean, as it is already in a PSA slab, so tough to think about doing anything to or with it. I'm scared of losing it in the mail. Oh, don't be scared of the post office. The post office won't hurt you, man. Son of a Mew said, dark Pokemon are top tier, yeah. There's a, I'll give you, I don't know if I don't think I have any Team Rocket return cards just at arm's reach, but I might. But I might have some dark Pokemon. But yeah, I think that's what he's talking about because I mentioned Team Rocket returns earlier. But, oh wait, I do. Here's one. But yeah, Dark Pokemon are definitely top tier, man. Agree 100%. Oh, I did. Only dark Pokemon I had. This isn't really a great one, but the Dark Marowak. Marowak. I had a little stroke right there, but the Dark Marowak is a good one. Ooh, Dark Celebi. This is not Team Rocket Returns. This is Hidden Legends. But believe it or not, this Dark Celebi is the only is the only dark card in all of Hidden Legends, which it is a very weird card. But yeah, when you say dark Pokemon, there are a lot of really cool dark Pokemon cards out there, man. 100%. Son of a Mewtwo said, Team Rocket sets are absolutely best. You can't change your mind. Yeah. Let's see. Roy M says, I've been buying more Japanese sealed than English. Seems to perform better over time, in his opinion. Historically, that's not really true, but hey, man, if you've been having a lot of luck. I mean, the thing about Japanese product recently, especially like specialty sets, you know, after a lot of like the later reprints, we saw a lot of stuff really crash down. You know, Eevee Heroes is a great example. You know, we saw Eevee Heroes crash really, really low. Like, I want to say it crashed into like the 60s or the 70s for the Japanese, and there was a lot of good buying opportunities. And it's funny, like, prices for stuff like that would get low, and when prices get real low for that sealed product, people stop buying and people don't want it till it starts going up. And then Eevee Heroes had this big rebound, and now we're starting to see the prices of Eevee Heroes really perform really well. So yeah, if you got lucky and you picked up some of those real low price points for a Japanese sealed product, you're probably doing really well. You know, like Tag Team GX2 was doing really good. Pretty much all the specialty sets, that just, if you bought the dips on any of these things, you did so well. Shining Star V, any of those, just buy the dip. Maxwell Gonzalez says, what up, PK? What's up, Maxwell? Good to see you in the chat. Quate from Compton said, I'm finally going to complete my base set binder with these prices. Yeah, man, that's awesome, dude. INO said, this was an unlimited Poliwrath, right? PSA 9 sell for over 500 first editions last I checked. This was a PSA 10 first edition that sold for $250 in a PSA 10, not PSA 9. It was PSA 10 first edition Poliwrath. I could show you. Yeah. Oh, wait. It was unlimited. Why did I keep saying first edition? It definitely was unlimited. I'm so confused from another card from Neo that is a first edition. That is not Shadowless. It is unlimited. I don't know why I said first edition. Oh, I feel really stupid. I had a Neo card on my watch list in a PSA 10 in first edition, sold for $250 at the same day. And you are right. That was a huge mistake on my behalf. Oops. I'll put that in the comments as this is what happens when you go live. You talk. But yes, it was definitely unlimited. Oh, I'm confusing two sets. Cheval says, I separated my money like PK said, a budget for Pokemon, one for the kids, etc. Says I exceed the amount allocated to my kids. I won't use Pokemon funds. I'd rather they starve than buy yes cards. Yes. Nunu said, my Pokemon money is heavily filtered. That's good. Zardlurkin92 said, what do you think about signed/sketch cards as far as liquidity? I mean, signed cards, the market's hot for signed cards right now. I mean, the market's dropped a little bit. It really depends on the artist, though. If you're talking about, like, Aritas cards that are just a million of those cards on the market, like, you know, market's not going to be super strong. But if you're talking a card like a Sugimori, when you don't have Sugimori ever go out and sign cards, and yeah, cards like that are going to hold way, way stronger. Son of Mewtwo said, or get a side hustle and dedicate that cash to the hobby. Yeah. Oh, real quick. Son of Mewtwo, I missed your super chat. He said, this is for all my dark Pokemon believers. The day will come when dark cards will shoot to the moon. A lot of dark cards already shoot out to the moon. My favorite personal dark card ever is the first ever secret rare from Team Rocket. It's a Dark Raichu. It's number 83 out of 82. That is one of my favorite dark cards ever. Uh, yeah. I do feel bad about that Poliwrath. It was definitely not first edition. I don't know why I it was unlimited. I'll put that in the comments. I'll have to pin that comment as like this is what happens when you go live. I'm sorry for that. Let's see. So, Son of a Mute says, PK, tip for your channel. Film yourself cracking a slab and post a short. Watch that shit go viral. Son of a Mewtwo. If you go on my shorts, there's a video where I throw a slab off my garage roof to crack it. So, I don't know. And go on my Instagram page too. It'd probably be hard to find it in the shorts of my channel, but if you go on my Instagram page, I only have like 5 or 6 Instagram videos, but one of them is me throwing that slab off the roof. I think it's a non-hollow Vaporeon from EX Sandstorm. It was like a CGC 9. Threw it off the roof, cracked it, resubmitted it to PSA. Pretty sure that card hit like a 7, but I mean, I also threw that card off my roof, which was probably not the best thing to do. And I didn't just throw it off once. It took like a lot of records to get like that perfect angle where it broke directly in front of the camera. I probably threw that thing off my roof like, I don't even know, like 6 or 7 times. I was pretty exhausted going up and down the ladder. Cheval's just wrote in the comments, said PK threw slabs off its roof, yeah. Claire One says, you just don't have to do it like an idiot if you have to. Use a label selection or section as leverage, yeah. Yeah, once you crack slabs, like slabs are easy to crack. You could crack them all day. Zard Lurkin, I think he got to the point where I cracked my slab. He said, see, this is why you don't pay too much attention to pop reports. Yes, definitely. Let's see. Son of Mewtwo said, sick art, Marowak artwork slabs. Yeah, definitely. So Roy said, I'm only speaking more modern. Like, I bought a ton of Blue Sky Stream at 75 per box. Not sure about vintage. Yeah, I don't even... Where is Blue Sky Stream right now? Japanese sealed product is not something I follow, so... Is it? I don't really know. Is 75 a good buying opportunity? It's just something I kind of stay away from. Dway Play says, just picked up some boxes of Paldea Evolved for 80 each. Now we wait for the bounce back. Yeah, I like Paldea Evolved. I just, $80 a booster box could be a good buying opportunity. What I would be worried about with a set like Paldea Evolved is that booster boxes just sit around $100 for a while. Cheval says, I still miss a Chumley slab in my collection. It's a must at this point, yeah. Fresh Tat said, what did Chumley do to the slab? He didn't do anything to the slab. For whatever reason, like, he had this auction block through PWCC where he sold a bunch of like the Chumley collection, and for whatever reason all his cards got graded, but then the actual like blue label got signed. So like this was a reverse hollow Moltres and a PSA 7 from Skyridge. So like it has a Chumley signature, and then CGC gave it a pedigree that said Chumley collection. But I'm not about to keep a Moltres reverse hollow from Skyridge in here. This is CGC 7 near mint. Like that's a binder copy all day. I'm gonna sell that card raw because it's clean versus try to sell that same Skyridge Moltres graded in a 7. And that's the thing too. Like in this hobby, and then one of the things you're gonna find out is there's a lot of graded cards that are worth it to buy graded, to crack those graded cards out and then sell them raw, because the raw prices a lot of times can be a lot better than the graded prices. I know it doesn't make sense, right? Because you think if you put that card in those 2 pieces of plastic and they have a label and they're authentic and all this stuff, that they should have a premium to it for the condition. It doesn't. When you get a clean 7, you're going to find a lot of clean 7s sell on eBay for far greater than their graded card price. And that happens actually like more times than not. And to be honest with you, especially like some of this super modern stuff, like when you look at the raw prices and PSA 9s are selling for greater than that PSA 9 price. And then it's like, well, what if you pick up that card in an 8? I just told you that the raw price sells for greater than a 9. The 8 sells for less than the 9, so buy the 8. If you got that real, unlucky guy, sent that modern card, it's super clean, but it hits that random PSA 4 or hits that PSA 6, you crack those 6s, you crack those 4s, you sell them for raw. There's plays there too. That's more the flipping game. I don't think people utilize that quite as much. It takes a little bit more like understanding of the market, but a lot of people grade modern cards and take losses by putting them in plastic. That's just the truth. I mean this. There's a lot of cards you could pick up, graded, crack them, and sell them raw for greater than you purchase them for. But that's just the market, though. I don't know. Let's see. Roy said Blue Sky Stream is $400 a box now. Is that how much it is? What? That's crazy. Blue Sky Stream extra box. I don't see four. Oh wait, that's Korean. Wow, is it really 400? Wow, good for you, man. You killed it. What are they? That's what they're selling at? See? I don't follow the Japanese market. Wow, good for you, man. That's awesome, dude. I didn't know they were that expensive a box. But that's awesome. Let's see. Clear One says, I can confirm that with the Shine-In Steelix and Crystal Celebrity that was graded a 7. I'm guessing you cracked it and sold them raw, yeah. Let's see. All right. Cheval says, Clean 4's cracking reported in. Yeah, Clean 4 is a rough. I have a Clean 4 that you can't even look up the cert on PSA for some reason. Like, you can't even look up the cert. It doesn't even have a photo of it. And it's like the clean... I could crack it out. I don't know where it is. I don't think it's in this box. I might have trouble finding it. But there are some cards that are just, for whatever reason, get so undergraded by PSA. Like, a 4 is an absolutely damaged card. I don't think I could find it. I don't have it readily available, but it's a Chinese card. Yeah. I'll find it. I'll try to find it. It's a Blastoise Piplup. Maybe my next live I'll try to find it and crack it for you guys so you could see like how rough this thing is graded. But it's definitely, I mean, it's a resubmit all day. I just haven't had time to crack it. I'll try to crack it and find it and crack it on my next live and show you guys. And maybe I'll use the overhead camera for this. But it's like the cleanest 4 that has ever existed. But yeah. All right, guys. I appreciate you. I'm sorry I fumbled over my words with that Poliwrath from Base Set. But I'll definitely write a comment on when this video's over saying I fucked up and I said first edition. I don't know what I was thinking. Confusing 2 cards. But yeah, guys. Listen, I appreciate every single one of you. I was only going to be like, oh, this would be like a 30-minute long live. Here we are, hour and 11 minutes into it. If you guys stayed through the end, do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're new to this channel, you made it to the end of an hour and 11-minute long live, and you heard me mess up a Poliwrath talking about Unlimited, said first edition base, but you still stuck around, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. But for everybody else, appreciate you, and I'll catch you on the next video.